the youth is part of our generation's worship. Be young and be boastful about how young you are, and then you achieved a certain amount of the feat and at your young ages. That was part of my passion too, that I always refused to be a grandfather no matter what. The thing that I cannot really deny is the fact that my daughter grew and grew and grew and get married 2004, and this is 2015, so 11 years they have not had a baby, not because of my command, but because of their family plan. They finally gave a birth to a daughter named Cheyenne last month. All right. So when people saying congratulations, your grandpa, I have a mixed feeling. I am no longer young, not too old, but old enough to be a granddad. And I went to Henderson, where my daughter lives, and met my granddaughter for the first time. That was a precious moment. She looked so pretty. I can imagine how a baby can be that beautiful. But it wasn't so pleasant moment by the time I came back, and then I need to get ready for Sunday. So, and also my daughter has been really tired feeding her every hour and a half or so. She's really tired. So it will be better for me to get out of her hair. So I drove back only to meet with the fire. At 9 o'clock, I left there. By the time I get to Victorville, it was like 2.5 hours passing. From the distance, I can see this orange, spooky-looking, this fire, and from Kehan and the what's the town's name? It begins with H. Hesperia. Thank you. If you get to my age, you would know. Sometimes it's just obvious words forget. It's escape. Hesperia. Every single entrance to 15 South was all blocked. So don't know what to do. So hungry, and I needed to release. But there was plenty of places to release because everywhere is dark other than this firework there. And I'm lucky enough to get around about 40 miles in the mountain and so on, be able to get 15 South again down at near San Bernardino. And that's how I got here. But looking at my phone, the Cheyenne still look beautiful. Even after that experience. Everybody was praying for miracle. I was one of them. It's just from the distance, I can see the fire. I mean, I can see the flame and the miles away. And then that later on, I noticed from the news that those were the cars. I mean, the cars were traveling, and this ball of fire is like a hell, literally, a swamp on that. And they were escaping some, and some of them were hurt and so on. Miracle didn't happen though. Everybody's scrambled, and fire department has been working so hard so that, I don't know. Also, we had rain yesterday. That was a blessing. Yeah, so we have no problem with that now. And I keep hearing about the threat of fire here, and then I probably have to pray a lot for the rain nowadays. And there is a miracle here again. This has nothing to do with fire, but it has to do with you being hungry. And why? As KR read, the text is saying that about 5,000 men fed. Now, at that time, I'm sorry, my apology on behalf of the Bible. that the children and the women were not counted even. So that when you hear them saying 5,000 men, it's more than likely the number should be way more than 5,000. With 2 fishes and 5 pieces of bread, fed, say, 10,000? Come on, give me a break. I've seen the fire from the distance and couldn't do a thing. Guess whether I prayed or not? I did. I did for the miracle. How about rain right now? And in fact, there was lightning somewhere, so that I thought that was a sign of moisture pretty soon, but didn't happen. In fact, not only 5,000 men fed, that Jesus walked on the water, Jesus was born without the couple having sex, and Jesus had Lazarus coming out of the tomb. Dead men became alive. Jesus put the mud on the eyes of Bartholomew, the beggar, and then we went to Siloam Lake and then washed his eyes, and he restored his eyes. There are a ton of miracles there. And how do we interpret that? There are folks who are saying, it is written in the Bible, so no questions about it, just believe it. Don't ask any questions. It is written as a holy Bible. 16th century King James Version of the Bible has a note that it is a holy word. It is interpreted by God's language, so that what it is written and then convey the meaning to you, you receive it and believe it as it is written. As you come to the point where miracles are recorded in the Bible, there are different folks debating about how do we believe or how do we interpret the miracle. One of them was believe it, and second one was there has to be a reason why this miracle was described as such a way. That's what we call memories. People remember what happened. People remember the stories that is extraordinary, so that they jot down what they believe they saw. Third interpretation will be the memories with metaphor. You know what metaphor is? Metaphor is describing event or object in a very figurative language. God Almighty, God is my fortress. God is not fortress, but we use the connotation, the meaning of fortress, to apply the protectiveness of God, but God protecting us. That's what we call metaphor. People have seen what happened and they interpret it in a metaphorical way. This is Marcus Borg's speaking, the New Testament theologian, talking about the miracles. In fact, the Bible presents different stories on one event. For instance, Jesus was born in Bethlehem according to Matthew. But if you look at the Gospel of Luke, Jesus never visited Bethlehem. There's no such a thing. The tax thing was on, so that everybody has to go back to their hometown to report their existence, so that they will be taxable being, and there is no such a thing. When the gospel present two different things, how do we accept that? We accept the Matthew's gospel, the real one, and the Luke is wrong? You can't really do that. There is memories of the people who authored those memories with his metaphorical interpretation. That's what's happening. And this one is the same thing. With 5 breads and 2 fishes, 10,000 people were fed. This is before you. This is the story. Taking it as is given to you so that the miracle happens in the name of Christ as he thanked to the heaven and blessed the food. That's one. The other one is that when they gathered together, hundreds and fifties all over the places, they begin to open up what they had and start sharing. The power of sharing was there. Therefore, the miracle happened. Now, however you interpret that and trust and believe is your individual thing, but at the same time, it is clear that if you read the Bible, that I will spend more time in the Bible study times, but there's always the inner dynamics between memory part and a metaphor part in the Bible all the time. Would it hurt? No, it doesn't hurt. But it gives us more prayerful mind as we read the Bible to guide us in the Spirit. There are few elements, by the way, to have this miracle happen. To have this 10,000 people or 15,000 people be fed, there's got to be some elements of miracle that can apply to us today. And one of them is there are the searching souls. For them, what matters most was to listen to Christ and be able to understand what it means to be alive and what it means to be a living being and what it means to take a faith and what it means to be moving on with my aging body, even facing the despair, the nothingness and unknown after death. These searching beings, the souls without leisure to eat or rest, they constantly follow the footsteps of Christ because of reason. There's a longing heart, the longing heart and unquenchable thirst that they have. They felt they need to be fed. They need to hear what he has to say so that what he's saying may touch my soul and may I redefine who I am and be a renewed person. And that's their longing matter. Some years ago, Richard Foster wrote a book called Money, Sex, and Power. And in the preface, he was saying that it at least last 2 centuries, at least, this money, sex, and power have been the focal point of attention of humanity. And as we look around us, I do not know whether we can unilaterally deny this is wrong or not. It is true that the money stands for the size of your freedom. You can do whatever you want to do if you have a money. And the sex is always not the noblest, the most beautiful act of humanity to express love. But the sex became the proof of love at times. It becomes so commercialized that it is a proof of your power. And at times, the power becomes so important that controlling other than you becomes your life object. That our longing heart is no longer there. This text is asking you, however young you are, however old you are, what is it that matters you most? What is it that you have a longing heart that you cannot describe exactly what it is, but I know that there is a deep thirst that I have not been able to quench. These folks following Christ, 10,000 without eating in a very deserted area, must have had a longing heart. The Oren McManus is one of those folks that I've read often, wrote A Soul Craving. And in that section, chapter 16, he was saying a crisis of success. The men, the modern people, even stacking up the success and still feel the crisis within their lives. The loneliness is there. A sense of abandonment was there, and sense of being lost. After stacking the logistic success, yet still feel that they are lost. The first element in my life or your life, the miracle, this community and other community, is it that we are able to articulate what it is that is longing in my heart. What matters most is this: it doesn't have to be according to the doctrine of the church or how the Bible teaches you, but be honest and authentically be able to state what matters most right now in my life is this. And that is the reason why I'm here and continue to pursue after what needs to be done according to the definition of that unquenchable thirst. What is it? At least this, folks, was something beyond eating, something beyond having roof on the top of your head, but it's listening to the word by which they can transform, they can change themselves. That was something that is so important that as they face what we call vanity, despair, still looking for the answers, hoping that Christ will give them an answer. And the other element is compassion of Christ. It is important how well organized, how reasonable we may be. There has to be the moment of pausing, the moment where you pause and be able to invite the sacred moment of Christ coming to you. There is a moment that Christ's passion has to be with you. Even in the mundane routine of your daily work, there has to be a strange moment you stop and pause and feel the holy presence in you. It doesn't have to be the holy words. It doesn't have to be gigantic words that says something about how deep you are on understanding what it means to be a faith journey, in the faith journey. But there has to be the moment where the passion of Christ is with you. Ezekiel 34 reads something like this: so they were scattered, these sheep were scattered because there was no shepherd, and scattered they became food for all the wild animals. My sheep were scattered, they wandered over all the mountains and on every high hill. My sheep were scattered over all the face of the earth, with no one to search or seek for them. Whereas Christ is saying that he was standing on the shore, seeing all these people with the longing heart following them, and he had compassion for them, and he wanted to be with them. Seeing the sheep is there without shepherd. Now, whenever the time is, however you do it, it is very comparative in our faith journey that we set aside the moment or space where Christ's compassion embrace your longing heart. There has to be a divine interruption in your repetitious daily routine where Christ speaks to you, saying, I have a compassion for you. However we are protective, however we are advanced in our knowledge, and however functioning we are in the society, there has to be the moment where you don't have to be a wretched being, but you have to be a thinking and praying existence to secure the moment that is holy, the paused time that Christ's compassion is with you. Final element of miracle that can happen to you, like a feeding 10,000, has to do with you. Now, Luna Sweet is one of those, the theologian who was like president of St. Paul's Seminary. The most difficult three most difficult word for all of us is I love you. He was writing a book on why I is most difficult, why love is most difficult, and why you is most difficult. And at this point, he was pinpointing out the difficulty we have right now is we don't know how to define you properly. Meaning that you at times is a tool for me to gain what I need. You at times is an object for my interest. That Martin Buber, the Jewish theologian, once said, we have a relationship in trouble. We don't know how to relate ourselves to others, saying, I and thou, you, thou becomes most often I and it. It is a tool, it is an object where I have to use you, or you are there for the sake of my benefit. We don't say out loud, but all of our composure and all of our communication has to do with securing what I need to have coming from you, you becoming my tool. That's where community is destroyed. Because of you, I am ready to sacrifice. Because of my love, I am ready to lower myself to secure your self-esteem at times. It is necessary for me to recognize you as a creation of God with which I feel there is a love that satisfies me. How do you define you in your community? When people gathered together, 50 and 100 in the field, they began open up and pull out whatever that can be edible and having a feast. That was even fiesta in the field, because they somehow saw you not as a competitor, but as you who represent the very image of God, the part of creation with me. That will be the final element for the miracle. Hear what Paul has to say in Ephesians. I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beg you to lead a life worthy of calling to which you have been called, and with all humanity and gentleness and with patience, bearing with one another in love, making every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. There is a one body, one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope for your calling, one Lord, one faith, and one baptism, and one God, the Father of all. The question before us is, where are you with your soul, longing hard, and how clearly can you express or articulate or define them in who you are? And the second question is also a very important element in our faith journey, that is sacred presence of Christ and his compassion with you. Is that with you? Have you been intentional enough to secure that space and time for you to invite the passion of Christ? Are you ready to call the next to you real you? Not the tool or not it, but thou. I think it is necessary for all of us to sit in the field and have a fiesta with our longing heart revealed with the compassion of Christ, and having the next to you, inviting her and him as you, the thou. Amen.